Salvete. In this lesson, or in this video, we are going over exercise 56 in the Henley book. So where is exercise 56 in the Henley book? It is just after you're exposed to the third declension neuter words. Now, think back to neuter words in the second declension. We learned the neuter rule, which says that the nominative and the accusative forms are identical. And that's true on the singular side. It's also true on the plural side. And so with neuter words in the third declension, it's going to be true as well, except we're going to be working with those various is-ema endings. And so with neuter words in the third declension, because the nominative and the accusative are identical, whatever that various ending is, the accusative ending, instead of having an M, like third declension nouns have had so far that you've seen, instead of having an M, like imperatorem or ducem, when we see a leader, we see a ducem, right? Instead of having an M, it's just going to match whatever that various ending is on the top. Okay, so that's how neuter words are going to work. And then over on the plural side, the nominative and the accusative are the same as well, except they're going to have an A ending, just like we saw in the second declension. So not a whole lot new here with third declension neuters. And so there are 10 sentences in this exercise, and this exercise is just meant to get you used to using the different endings for third declension neuters, and then using these words alongside other third declension words, and also words of the first, or nouns of the first and second declensions too. So we're going to, again, just kind of be putting it all together here. Okay, so the first sentence goes, propter vulnera miles in agmine non est. Okay, and so when we start with a sentence in Latin, it's always a good idea to identify our subject and to identify our verb. So right away, I see there's a preposition, noun, noun, preposition, noun, the word non. Oh, there's our verb. Est is our verb. Okay, and that just means is. Ooh, it's a big S. All right. And so what is our subject? What's doing the being? Is it propter? No, propter is on account of. Vulnera could be a nominative plural for wounds. And again, I know that because vulnerable means woundable, right? If you're vulnerable, you are woundable. So vulnera is in wounds. But third declension can be tricky, remember, because accusatives and nominatives often look the same, right? That's true of all third declension words on the plural side, right? Because we see that ascending both in the nominative and in the accusative. But with neuter words, it's going to be true on the singular side and on the plural side. At least on the singular side, you had the M with the whatever the various is for the nominative. You could at least tell them. You could at least tell the nominative and the accusative apart. On the singular side, even though you couldn't on the plural side, and the neuters, they're the same on both sides. So this third declension is going to be pretty tricky. Sometimes it's going to be pretty tricky to identify what our subject is, because we could get it confused with some accusative word, right? So let's see if we can find out what it is here. All right. Propter vulnera. Well, it's probably not vulnera, because propter means on account of, and we know that propter takes the accusative. And so this vulnera is going to be an accusative. It's going to be on account of the wounds. So we don't know who the subject, we don't know who's doing the being just yet, but let's keep reading. Propter vulnera miles in agmine non est. So miles is a nominative, singular. And thankfully, miles is not a neuter word. Thankfully, it's a masculine word, and miles has to be the nominative. That's the various, right? Everything else is going to start with millet, right? Miles militis, right? Everything else starts with millet. So So I think we found our subject, and let's just check and make sure it agrees with our verb. It's a singular soldier, right? One soldier, and then it's is, so est. So we're good. So on account of the wounds, the soldier is, non est. So the soldier is not in agmine. All right, there's another new word, agmine, and that is a column of soldiers. So this word also means line, like if you're standing in line for something. But it's also a column of soldiers because they're kind of standing in a line too. So in the line, and there's our ablative ending with an E. So on account of wounds, the soldier is not in the column. Okay, so there's our first sentence. All right, and the second sentence says, Imperator vulnera militum videt. And so, again, I want to identify our verb, videt. So it's sees. Imperator vulnera militum videt. Imperator, thankfully, is another non-neuter word. So at least I can identify, at least I know when I see imperator that has to be a nominative. And it's a singular, and so videt. So that again works out. It's nominative singular. So the emperor sees. Now, whatever the emperor sees has to be in the accusative. And so these are my only two words left. Vulnera, the wounds. And again, that's a nominative plural and an accusative plural. But in this case, I'm pretty sure it's an accusative. So the emperor sees the wounds militum. And this is a genitive plural of the soldiers. So here we have the emperor sees the wounds of the soldiers. All right, let's take a look at the third one. Sunt corpora in flumine. This is a little different. Usually we see sunt at the end of a sentence, but maybe this is one of those times where it's saying there are something. Remember, those are called expletives, using est and using sunt to mean not just is or are, but to mean there is or there are. So when there is or there are something, then that something is in the nominative because that's the subject of the sentence if we're saying there is that thing. So corpora, could that be in the nominative? Sure could. That's a nominative plural. And because it looks like corpus or corpse, it's body. It means body. So actually it means bodies. So there are bodies in flumine, in the river. So that was a quick one. There are bodies in the river. Very interesting. All right, the next sentence. In Gallia sunt flumina et silvae. So in Gallia means in Gaul, and notice that it's in the ablative because it has the macron on the A. So we still don't know what our subject is, but sunt is there are. And it's another expletive, it looks like. So there are. And so whatever there are should be in the nominative. Flumina. So that's rivers. Could be in the nominative. It's a nominative plural or an accusative plural. But because it's following an expletive, it's probably a nominative. So in Gaul, there are rivers and forests. So flumina is a nominative plural, and then silvae, first declension word, a little blast from the past, that's a nominative plural as well, but a nominative plural of the first declension. So in Gaul, there are rivers and forests. All right, the next sentence says, Romani in itinere sunt. All right, and so we have sunt here, which is our verb. Now it means they are. So our subject is probably going to be a plural subject. And in fact, we have Romani, which is the Romans. That's a nominative plural. Could mean of the Roman, but I'm gonna assume here that it's the nominative plural Romans. So the Romans are in itinere, and then itinere means a journey. So it's like the word itinerary or itinerant is are two derivatives that come from the word iter, itineris, so journey. So the Romans are on a journey or on the journey. Could be a journey or the journey. It doesn't really matter. All right, our next sentence says, sunt hostes et siluis et sunt hostes in siluis et in montibus. So again, anytime we see a sentence that starts with an est or a sunt, it's probably saying there is or there are something, because otherwise we tend to see est and sunt at the end of sentences. Sometimes you can see them in the middle of sentences too, but when you see them right away beginning a sentence, that's probably what you want to think. So sunt hostes, there are enemies, because think hostile. There are hostile people or enemies. Sunt hostes in siluis. So in takes the ablative. This is an ablative plural, siluis. So in the forests, et in montibus. And this is another ablative plural. It's just an ablative plural of the third declension. This is an ablative plural of the first declension. So there are enemies in the forests and in the mountains. All right, next we have itaque in periculo sumus. Now, this is kind of fun because typically we just see third person verbs in our sentences, either third person singular or third person plural. It's either about a he or a she or about multiple he's or she's, right? But here we have sumus. And so if we think back to how we conjugated our verb sum, so sum est, sumus estis sunt. So sumus was in the first person plural. So that's a we. So sumus means we are. And so if you think about Spanish, somos, it's pretty much the same word, just a few centuries later, right? So we are. So here's a we are sentence. We are the subject in the sentence. Itaque, therefore, in periculo sumus. So remember, a derivative of the word periculum periculi is peril. And so this means danger. So therefore, we are in danger. And because it was a second declension neuter word, because it was a word in the second declension, periculo is an ablative ending. So we're in danger. So therefore, we are in danger. All right. Next, we have Caesar agmen hostium videt. And so, mercifully, Caesar is in the nominative. And so we know this is our subject because Caesar, Caesaris means Caesar, and Caesar is our nominative. And if it was in the accusative of Caesar, Caesaris is Caesarem, right? And so this, we know it has to be the nominative singular. And videt, sees, it's a singular verb, right? So Caesar sees. Now, whatever Caesar sees has to be in the accusative. So do we have an accusative? That's not an accusative. Agmen. Agmen could be accusative, though. Oop, what happened here? There we go. All right, not sure what happened there. So Caesar sees and what is agmen again? Agmen is a line or a column of soldiers. So Caesar sees the column. Now, agmen sort of looks like it's a nominative, but agmen was one of our recent words, and it's a third declension neuter, which means the accusative is going to be exactly the same. So this is actually an accusative word, even though it looks nominative. Okay? Caesar sees the column and then hostium of soldiers. Or sorry, of enemies. The column of enemies. All right, getting close to the end. Christiani nomen Mariae laudant. So here we have laudant as our verb, which is a plural, so it's a they verb. So they praise. And so we're looking for a plural subject. Christiani looks like it fits the bill. And now nomen is one of our new third declension neuter words, nomen, nominis. And again, nomen looks like it's nominative, but because it's neuter, this is going to be the accusative form as well, in the accusative singular form. And then the two plural, both the nominative plural and the accusative plural are both going to be nomina. So Christians praise the name of Mary. Since this is genitive singular, well, actually, Mariae is a lot of different things, but it's what makes sense here. All right, and then nomen is going to be accusative singular. And then here is our nominative, that's supposed to be an N, nominative plural. All right. All right, and then last two, agmen hostium in flumine est. And so here's our verb, est. We're looking for a singular subject. Agmen is a column. No, singular. It could be nominative singular or accusative singular. We have a singular verb, and it's at the beginning of the sentence. So it's pretty certain then that this is our subject. So let's call this nominative singular. So the column is hostium. Oh, no. This whole thing must be our subject, and it's not that the column is hostium. It's a column of, because this is a genitive plural, column of enemies. So that's our subject. The column of enemies is, okay, now this makes more sense, is in flumine, in the river. So the column of enemies is in the river. And then let's do our last one. Romani Christianos occiderunt, quod Christiani nomen Christi laudant. Ooh, got a long one. So I see a quod in here. Quod means because. And when we see quod, we can split the whole thing into two sentences that can be treated separately. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Romani Christianos occiderunt. So here's our verb with our NT. So this means they killed, and so we're looking for a plural subject. Christianos is plural, Romani is plural, but Christianos is an accusative plural, which means Romani needs to be our subject. So that's going to be nominative plural. So the Romans killed the Christians, and that makes more sense. Christians didn't typically kill Romans, not on a large scale. But the Romans killed the Christians because, now let's treat the second half of the sentence. So Christiani nomen Christi laudant. All right, and so there's another plural verb, they praise, and here is a plural, a nominative plural. That looks like it goes with it. So the Christians praise nomen, the name, and again, nomen looks like it's nominative. Typically, if you're praising, if you know your verb is praising and you're looking for, okay, what are the people praising? You're looking for something accusative. You're looking for something with an em on it, right? But this time, nomen is a third declension neuter word, and so we have to remember, oh yeah, it's going to match the nominative. This is going to be accusative. Nomen is accusative and nominative. It's nominative and accusative. It's both. So it's okay that the name is what's being praised. So it's accusative singular. Okay? Because the Christians praise the name, and there's a genitive singular, of Christ. All right. The Romans killed the Christians because Christians praised the name of Christ. All right. There is exercise 56.